everyone, and welcome to another episode of Sustainably You podcast. My name is Vibha, and today I have with me my co-creators, Simi.
Hi, everyone.
And Philip.
Howdy, y'all.
Philip.
And we have two very interesting guests as well on board. Humaid.
Hi. Assalamu alaikum.
And we have Jessica.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello.
And we should say that they are a couple.
They're a couple, yes.
You beat me to the howdy, y'all.
So let's start with you two introducing yourselves, telling us a little bit about your background and the whole concept of farm to table.
All right, farm to table, it's the perfect mixture of my husband and I, both our passions and what we feel strongly about, which is everything to do with sustainability, agriculture, and also from my background as well, cooking, adding the culinary F&B background as well. And we are trying to create a network of local farms and help them bring them towards either suppliers commercially or individually. There's also an educational part of the brand that we feel very strongly about, which is kind of helping share kind of seed to plate for, either children or adults as well, and helping them realize the importance of agriculture and also the importance of sustainable farming, which I think is the way forward. We think is the way forward. And then we also have, as I mentioned before, the F&B part of the brand, which is everything to do with menu creation and food and all that fun stuff. But our launching pad was actually Expo. We were born at Expo company brand, and we had a restaurant there, and we were pushing local, sourcing local. We invited actually we had a very interesting conversation with a paleobotanist. We brought him over from Germany actually, where he's doing his research, and he was. It was not only about the seeds and the journey to the plate, but where these seeds actually originated from, which was super interesting. Where the wheat comes from originally and how it traveled, and it was a wonderful project to be a part of.
So Humaid, a little bit about
Can you
myself.
tell us your whole name?
Yes.
How to say your whole name?
My name is Humaid, but my full name is Humaid Saeed Khalifa Humaid Abdullah Humaid AlRemeithi. And I can go further back. It goes back a couple of thousand years.
Mine was just Jessica Queitsch.
So I come from the Remeithi family, which is part of the Benias tribe.
Oh, I see.
Yes, I was talking to Dr. Philip about this earlier. Our families have been here for a good 1,000 years on the Abu Dhabi island, at least, between Abu Dhabi and Al Ain.
And you can trace back
Yes.
the lineage? Wow.
Yeah, our lineage goes all the way back to Prophet Abraham.
Wow.
Peace be upon him, yes.
Wow,
That's a long time.
Yes.
And you got records.
Yes.
Somebody took the effort to do all that tracing.
It's because in most tribal areas, they will always trace back. And in our family, we have a few family representatives that are, keeping the family tree updated.
Very nice.
Also, the government now is doing the same thing, which is very nice. I studied here, and then I went from here to Cambridge. I studied English there, and then to the United States to finish my leadership bachelor's degree. At the same time, while growing up, we always would go from our family taught us about the sea and the importance of the sea and the pearl trade and trade in general, and the importance of how our families during the summertime would go from Abu Dhabi island, they would migrate to Al Ain oasis, while the men who are at sea and going pearl diving, or even before that it was trade in general. Al Ain oasis was our farms. So people think that Arabs and Bedouins didn't farm, which is not true. Bedouins as a Bedouin is somebody who is seasonal. They move from place to place. But some Arabs were stationed, so they had a place where they did they had the summertime and they had the winter time. So this brings us to our passion of farming and the business mindset behind it.
Behind farm to table.
Behind farm to table.
Said that. It's
yes,
farm to table.
Farm to table. Because when we would sit at the farm and we had we have we always try to, if not the best quality, it's somewhere up there. I would say it's probably the best quality. And you could see how we treat our animals and even treat our crops, because even plants, they have feelings and they need special nutrients. When I say feelings, they need to have good nutrients. And as they say, you are what you eat.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're eating right and you're feeding your animals and your plants the right nutrients, you are healthy in general. So that's a little bit about myself.
So you are the farm and she's the table.
I think we are the farm to table.
Yeah.
I mean, what a concept that farmers cook and chefs farm. How did you guys come together?
Well, through food.
Yes.
Through food. We connected through food, and I think the rest is history.
Yeah.
Beautiful history, of course, in the making.
Alhamdulillah.
Yes.
So you touched a little bit upon the heritage of your family, the history of farming. So UAE is not a country that is known for agriculture, but obviously, like you said, it's been happening here for such a long time. Can you, because you have such a history in this industry, can you tell us a little bit about what it was like before?
All right. So I'll tell you a little bit of history, which was passed down from my grandparents. My grandfather is actually still alive. And when they would do trade, they would go from here, let's say from here to Basra, Iraq.
Wow, that's a long way.
And then they would barter with dates or even gold or pearls for other commodities. Some of the commodities they brought back were date palms. And this is not my grandfather, this is his grandfather, Abdullah bin Humaid. Some of the date palms he brought back, he planted in the Al-Ain Oasis farm, which we have, which is still in our family to date. And the reason being is also you want quality. So even back then people thought about that. They thought about selecting the best kind of dates and having those dates here. Instead of only having them in Basra, they had them here as well. And the interesting about that is we were told that some of those date palms were wiped out during 2003, 2001 to 2003, if you're familiar with that.
The conflict.
Yes.
Okay.
Some of these huge farms were just burnt to the ground. And so, yeah.
Horrible.
Some of the palms we have in our farm. And the trips from Abu Dhabi to Al-Ain or by camel, and they would take it from 3 days to a week. My father actually was born on the way. He was born in the desert.
Wow.
Alpha, you need to give context to the listeners because a lot of them are probably not from UAE. So what's the distance today in the car from Abu Dhabi to Al-Ain?
From car to from Abu Dhabi to Al-Ain is a good 1 hour and a half. That's it, 1 hour to 2 hours.
That's at 160 kilometers an hour.
Yes,
though.
that's at 160 kilometers an hour because the speed limit is 160, which is 100 miles per hour. So, which is great, and it's shortcuts. Actually, the interesting thing is the Abu Dhabi Al Ain Road was built on the old path, which was by camel. And there's one huge dune. When you're going from Abu Dhabi to Al Ain, if you notice, there's a beautiful dune that you actually go between. There'll be a dune on your right and a dune on your left. This dune was called Hez al-Bosh, which means this is where the camels would get tired because it was such a huge dune. And now they've just cut through that dune to make the road. But it's such a beautiful view. Sometimes we go up on the dune and we'll just sit and watch the stars and listen to the cars go by.
Especially the sand in Al Ain is such a beautiful... It's like a terracotta, burnt orange. It's such a beautiful color.
It's a beautiful sand.
Yes, it is.
And I'll tell you another story. So my grandfather Khalifa, after cars were available, the Bedfords back then were available, and the Dodge trucks and the big trucks, of course. Grandfather, he purchased a plot, a big farm, which is still there today, between Abu Dhabi and Al Ain, which was called Swehan. And he made a house there. We call it's like a guest house for the family and for anybody who's passing by. They can pass by and they can sleep and they can have food, and it was open for everyone. Like a rest house. And the meaning of rest house.
Or what you would, in the kind of historical context of the word, are also caravanserais. When you think of that as well, like on the Silk routes and all those different routes, you have different places where people can get together and rest. And
yes.
So the meaning of Swehan in Arabic is
I'm not sure of the meaning right now. I mean, I remember it as a child, but it's an old name.
So it has something to do with resting in the desert.
No, I'm not sure.
Okay.
I can't. But I know that around the area there are different things. So for an AlRemeithi family breaks into three. So you have people like us that are both desert and merchants. So they're Bedouin. Well, I won't say Bedouins. They are farmers and merchants, sea merchants. So they go by sea in the pearl trade and fishing. Then you have another faction of the family which are they went from that lifestyle to only desert lifestyle, Bedouin, purely Bedouin, but also farm. They also farm. Their farms and Samha, and their family and that family's area was called Abu Salaf. So when you're going to Suwayhan, on your left you'll see a sign that says Abu Salaf. This was all the Remeithi family of the desert. That was their area. And Abu Salaf, the meaning means father of the rock, something hard. And so when it comes to meanings. And then you had the third Remeithi category are those that stayed in islands. They went from between Abu Dhabi to Al-Ain, and they just decided, okay, you know what, we'll sit in the islands and we'll stay in the islands. Saadiyat Island.
Wow. Are they the party people in the family?
No, they're actually,
Okay.
they're the most, I would say, mellow, because they stayed behind and they just stayed and inhabited those islands. So you have Ras Gharab Island, which is called Al-Reem. Then you have Saadiyat Island. You have what is still there now, Al-Jubail Island.
Yes, Jubail.
Jubail Island. So all of these islands, and going all the way to we call it Gharbiya, so towards Ruwais. Any little islands you'll find the Remeithi still there. Remeitis and Meheris and some Al-Meheribi family. Those are the ones that stayed there, and they would stay there in the islands, and they would live and they would plant their trees and they have their water.
Yeah, those are great places for camping. I love that part of Abu Dhabi.
They are. Even today, you can, camp responsibly. You can take the ferry and go to Ras Gharab Island, which is called Al-Reem now. And you can camp there on the island. It's a beautiful place to go. And the water's beautiful and turquoise.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take that name later.
Yes, of course. I'll show you the location as well and instructions.
And you mentioned Al-Meheri family as well. So the Minister for Climate Change and Food Security,
yes,
Minister Miriam Al-Meheri. So
we're all one tribe.
Wow. Okay.
So our tribe is called the Beni Yas tribe.
Yes.
Not the location. The location is named after the tribe. But the Beni Yas tribe has families in it. We call it Ashayar. So, and they report back to the head of the whole tribe, which is our Sheikh Khalifa. Sheikh Khalifa is the head of all of the Beni Yas tribe. Also, he's the president of the United Arab Emirates. But on a tribal perspective, he's the head of the tribe as well. And then in each family, you have a head of a family. My father's uncle, he's the head of the Remeithi family. Khadim, and the Al-Meheri family also have a sheikh of their family, so each family has one. So there are different smaller families within the tribe. And the beautiful thing about the tribal life that many people don't know, there's a difference between a sheikhdom and a kingdom and other kinds of rules. The sheikh long ago doesn't necessarily have all the money, but the sheikh was the wisest and the most, just person, and that person would be elected to be the sheikh. And all the tradesmen, they would share their wealth with that sheikh, and that sheikh would evenly distribute it and evenly distribute the land to everybody in it. Not just the people from the land, but even some people who are passing by or wanted to stay in that land.
That's such a great information, because today people kind of connect sheikh equals to money, someone who's, and it's so great for people to understand that's not the case. At least in the region.
Yes. I remember when I used to study abroad, there was a saying, from the people, by the people, for the people.
Mm-hmm.
A sheikhdom is exactly that. The sheikh is from the people, by the people, for the people. And when I say people, I mean everybody in. You're all here and you can feel the fruits of the UAE and how there's that sharing.
And I really like it how I find it very noteworthy that everybody wears the same kind of dressing.
Yes.
Yeah, the kandura. And so there's an Emirati style of kandura, and everybody wears the same, from Sheikh Khalifa on to everybody else, right?
It's a thing of practicality and unity. And our kandura is actually something that's been around for also thousands of years, as far as the basic of it. If you go into any church or synagogue and there's illustrations, you'll see that they're wearing a kandura. In fact, they even will be wearing the black agal on the head and the ghatra. And this is things that have been, we're talking about practicality here, right? They lived in the desert, and they wore it back then, and today we still wear it, the same, very similar clothes.
But there's a distinct Emirati style.
There is,
with a triangle on the chest.
Yeah, so we call it a tarbush. It's like a tassel that comes down.
Right.
In Oman, it's a little bit shorter, and Abu Dhabi it used to be short. But to differentiate, they made it a little bit longer. And you don't need to have it. I can take it off, which I did. You can see it's already taken off. And
okay. So that's an additional fitting.
It's just that it is like a tie.
I was talking about the triangular cut.
Yeah, those are designs. So that's what we like.
It's an Emirati symbol.
We call it Kandora Arbiya. You'll find the same design. The more traditional people in Oman and the more traditional people in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Iraq and Syria and Kuwait, they will still also wear the similar Kandora. We call it Kandora, and it's just because it's practical and it's baggy. Because people think that only women need to wear baggy clothes. No, actually, our religion teaches us and our culture teaches us to wear baggy clothes as well. Because it's roomy clothes. First of all, it's more modest. Secondly, it's also it's cooler. Believe it or not, you can walk out, and I'll be less hot than when I'm wearing jeans or a top. Of course, I'm not going to compare that to shorts. That's a different story.
Coming back to, you were differentiating the kind of how the tribes are taken care of. So you spoke about sheikhdom, and then what's the other two?
Okay, so a king in general is absolute rule, and the presidency is somebody who's elected. The major difference between those is that, as I was saying, a sheikh, back in the day, the people would support the sheikh. The sheikh didn't need to be the wealthiest person, but the sheikh was the most just, the most wise, and they took care of everyone in the land. And that's why when you see in the UAE, when the wealth came in and the sheikhs had that wealth, they took care of everybody in the land. They took care of not only everybody in this land, but even overseas.
Yeah.
And we still see that being practiced today, and that is due to them seeing the hard life as well. In Al Ain, our family house was wall by wall next to Sheikh Zayed. Wow. So my grandfather's house and Sheikh Zayed's house, well, there was a very little wall between them. I actually remember the house before it was demolished.
And just to give context here, he is a farmer, and Sheikh Zayed is the founder of UAE.
Of the United Arab Emirates, yes. So there's that close reality check, I would say. Sheikh Zayed came from very humble backgrounds, and all of our families in general did. Some of them, there were ups and downs. If you're familiar with the pearl trade, at one time there was a boom in the pearl business, and then suddenly with the seeded pearls, we lost that. So there were very few merchants that were able to make it by after that. My family actually went from pearls. From before that, it was gold and bartering, to pearls, and then when the pearl trade collapsed, they went to other commodities like wood. And when I say wood, I mean they would go by boat, and they had my grandfather Khalifa. He inherited the most dhows, so the most boats in Abu Dhabi, and they would go out and they would look for the wood, dry wood, to sell. So that's how much they were impacted.
So now what you're trying to do, obviously in old days, where you were just talking about pearl, going out, diving in the sea to collect pearls, and that was a sustainable way of living. You're not farming it, you go to nature, pick what you can, and you sell. Also with regards to farming. So coming back to the context of the podcast, what's your farming about? How is it sustainable? We would like to hear all about how it was and how it is now.
This literally is a mom and pop. This is a mom and pop farm, isn't it? So we have Pop, Mr. Humaid AlRemeithi, and Mom, Jessica. What is your full name, by the way?
Jessica Queitsch. But I mean, there's a huge family that's part of the support and taking care of the farm, but just I wanted to get back to this, as you mentioned, sustainability, and also the history of this beautiful country. While we were at Expo, we wanted to kind of share a bit of the heritage as well, and we had a few different chefs' tables, and one of the chefs' tables was Arabic themed. So I chose dishes from different Arabic countries that were traditional. And the one that I chose from here, which is a very traditional, kind of less well-known dish. It's a dish that has been around for
as long as we know.
Yeah, which is called jasheed. So it's from shark.
Whoa!
And yeah, it's a shark dish, and I remember I got a little bit of pushback from a few of the team members, and they said, I'm not sure about shark. Putting that on the menu, it's not necessarily globally, it's not seen as a sustainable fish. And for me, I said no, it's very important to share how the UAE treats this fish, because fishing in the UAE has majority been sustainable. They go and fish on the dhows. It's not big trawlers. It's not big.
Right.
They ban fishing on different breeds when they have their breeding season. So when the shark has its breeding season, specific species, you're not allowed to fish that species, which they have for I think almost all species of fish here in the region. And it's also, it's local. They're not going out into the Asian seas and fishing the shark there. It's what's locally caught, sustainably caught. And it's also, they use the whole shark. They don't just use a small part and throw the rest out. So these are some aspects of, traditional, sustainable systems that have been in place for a very long time. And I thought were very important to kind of share that, we understand that globally certain things are not seen as sustainable. But when you see them on a local scale, on a smaller scale, there are sustainable systems and ways of doing it. Also, in a sense of agriculture, I know there's a huge backlash on cows nowadays, that cows are not sustainable and that they're not the way forward. And we believe that there is, on smaller local scales, sustainable farming and sustainable agriculture and ways that you can approach these different facets and they can be fully sustainable into the future. So I wanted to add.
I really like that the zero waste concept that you brought in about the shark.
Yes.
And that's one of the concepts, that's part of our ethos that we're trying to teach through our podcast. So thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, zero waste is
Secondly,
very important. Yeah.
I think the only sustainable way to live is live within whatever environment you're living in, what's available to you locally, and how you manage to use that completely and in line with nature.
To respect the environment and respect also to respect the systems already in place, to take a look at those and see what's working.
And going back to traditions, going back to our roots. And our roots just tells you exactly how to live with nature.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
So I'm really fascinated by this mom and pop outfit. It's quite fascinating. I haven't seen many.
It's a
mom and pop farm plus restaurant and expo eventing and so on. So you have a child.
Yes.
Would you like to share his age and name, maybe?
No.
Okay.
I think that's way too personal.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, we could say the Saleh. Our son's name Saleh, which means pious.
Oh.
And it's the name of one of the prophets mentioned in the Holy Quran, as well as in the Old Testament. Sheila, his name Sheila.
Okay.
And we chose to name our child Saleh. We love the Madain Saleh, which is where Al-Ula is. And the story behind Prophet Saleh, he was very patient, and the people that he was sent to became very arrogant. And then they said, they were making fun of the Prophet. They said, if you're a real prophet of the Almighty, show us a sign. Why don't you make out of that mountain a camel come out, a she-camel? And not only just a she-camel, we want that she-camel to be pregnant and in the last stage of pregnancy. And then the Prophet thought, are you sure that's what you want? They're like, okay, yeah, that's what we want. He said, okay. So he raised his hands and he made the prayer, and the camel, sure enough, came. The mountain split and this camel came out. But then the catch was, now that you've asked for this, your wells, when the she-camel and her baby drink from that well, you're not allowed to drink. You have to wait. You can drink its milk, no problem. But whenever the mother and her baby are drinking, you have to wait a whole day as a trial of patience. Long story short. So that was one of the reasons we chose the name Salih, because it's piety. And we believe that piety, which is meaning we are just. To be someone who's pious is also someone who's just and calm and patient. And those are all attributes that we'd love our child to learn.
So how do you manage with a child and, you're a chef and you're a farmer, you're an entrepreneur, both of you, and how do you juggle all this?
We'll tell you a little cute story about, so Jessica was on site, even I think a good week before Expo opened, and smuggling in the baby here and there, where it was possible. And we always told them, if they had processed Salih's as security pass, he would have been the youngest Expo staff ever, because he was there. He learned to walk there. He learned to talk at Expo. Well, say a few words, let's just say, and he learned to run. And
wow!
Now he misses those robots, the orange robots.
Everybody misses the Expo.
So children are a blessing,
and
it's us as parents to be up for that challenge of life and try and guide our children, not control but guide.
And I think also what we're doing and what we're involved in is they are beautiful aspects for a child to learn. I think it's, it's something to be around. It's, for agriculture, for farming. I think there have been lots of studies that children that have access to farms, their immune systems are stronger. Especially in this day and age of corona and everybody is scared of germs. For me, I'm a very big advocate of dirt is very, very beneficial for us. And
dirt
and
meaning
I think,
sand, of course.
Soil.
And getting your hands dirty in the soil.
Oh, yeah.
And
So
I think it's very important for...
It's part of growing up, learning to play with the sand. And
I used to make mud castles and mud.
It is true that because we now live in like concrete cities, we're not in touch with nature anymore, and that has given rise to a lot of autoimmune diseases.
Yes.
And what I have, celiac disease, is also an autoimmune disease, and I have to say, as a kid, I was quite allergic to dirt. I was a clean freak, So I don't know if that played a role, but it is true.
I think everything, the lifestyles that we have nowadays, there's a few different points that you talked about, that the disconnection, I think, for children especially, but also in adults nowadays as well, the disconnection of nature in our lives, because we do majority of us live in kind of concrete jungles, as you want to put it, and we don't have that connection of where our food is coming from, where
what is the quality of the food,
what is put into it.
I
was on a panel, actually, a very, very interesting panel at Expo called the World Majlis, and we talked about zero waste, we talked about sustainability, and we talked about the true cost of fruit and vegetables. And you look at the cost of an organic fruit and vegetable that's, grown here, and you can kind of trace everything that's happened to it, or something that's been imported that you have, you don't have the cost of the emissions of shipping, you don't have the cost of the human's right cost, because you don't know how the social aspect of that farm, what goes on. You also don't know exactly how they treat the fruits and vegetables and livestock, and there's just so much that I think in this day and age, all the different kind of autoimmune disorders that are present, I do believe that it is a part of the over-refined, over-treated, over-sanitized. That if we, as we talked a lot about, going back to kind of nature and going back to tradition, I think if we have a bit more of that in our lives, it's only beneficial.
If I were a marketing spy and I wanted to get this information, how do you show that you care for your food from the source and the people that produce a food.
You can taste the difference.
You can smell it. You can taste it. You can see the animals. You can see the plant. The difference in the quality.
And the transparency of, having come to the farm and see it for yourself.
Okay. So you invite your customers to come to Swehan?
Yes, we have invited quite a few people to anybody that we've done collaborations with, or people that have shown interest.
As I say, seeing is believing, right? That's some things obviously we can't see, but which we believe in, but we can feel it.
But you can taste it.
You can taste it.
Smell it.
Yes, exactly. You can see the signs. And when it comes to farming, you can have a gimmick of a farm. It looks beautiful, it looks eco-friendly, but the reality behind it all, it might not be what it looks like. So, for example, we have on one of our farms, we have greenhouses. We have, I can't remember how many there were, quite a few. And they were nice. And when we first started them, the idea was to go into the market. And as a family, we have rights to one of the very well-known supermarkets here, because our family owns shares in it. If you're familiar with Spinneys.
Oh, yeah.
And when we first started our cucumbers, our organic cucumbers, we wanted to sell it through Spinneys, but obviously it has to go through a process. Even though our family own majority share, you can't just bully your way into something. And we saw that it was such a difficult market to get into, even though we are part of that market. And it was no longer sustainable. You have the running cost of those greenhouses. If if electric outage happens and you don't have backup generators, everything is gone. All of your produce is gone. And so one of the people who we were presenting to, after we finished, they came and they said, listen, we'll buy all of your produce and we'll buy it for the first year. We're like, okay, fine. And of course we were undercut, but it paid off for the greenhouses. As I said in the beginning, we're not government funded, we're privately funded our farms. So the next year they said, you know what, why don't we rent your greenhouses from you? We're like, fine, you can rent them, but these are our rules. So as long as it stays clean and organic and stuff like that. We went into net housing farming. So I feel the white mesh nets, and obviously that's seasonal. You can plant as long as it's cool all the way until now. And in those greenhouses, in those net houses, we've done wonders. I'll just say we've had exotic kinds of tomatoes and tomato. What else did we have? Peppers and tomatoes and so many.
Part of the farm, we definitely try and experiment with what can be grown here. And I know that I talked a little bit about the sourcing the date seeds from.
Yes.
We also, even nowadays going into the future, we grow wheat on the farm.
Yes.
And
really?
Yes, and it grows very well.
In
and
net housing?
No, that's just out in the open, but we actually...
So what we've done with that farm, I'll just explain that. So our farms are side by side. So we have our farms, we have our uncle's farm, and then we have another distant uncle's farm. And when he saw that what we're doing is practical, what he was growing in his farm was only alfalfa for his camels. And then he's like, you know what, here's my farm. I don't really need it that much. I want to see what you can do with it. So my cousin Mohammed bin Ali and Saeed bin Ahmed, they said, okay, let's see what we can do on this farm. And they traveled to an Arabian country that has similar temperatures to Swehan, and they brought back wheat. It's not like wheat wasn't grown here a long time ago. There was wheat, but people forget these things. When they become too comfortable, they forget about all that was done in the past. So we started growing the wheat there, and it is good stuff.
So do you have this in the supermarket, locally grown wheat?
No, what we do, going back to what I was saying, we sell it all through our social media. So
Oh, wow.
Because getting into that market was so difficult and so much red tape, and we're like, you know what?
So, okay, we're getting into the right and good stuff. Maybe we just take a step back and then we'll come to this. So, first thing, with regards to farming, what is sustainable farming? One, what kind of crops do you grow in your farm? Or is it just crops, or is it animals? What's sustainable farming?
You want to go?
Well, I think part of being sustainable farming is as we said, zero waste, and that also it's not only about the food from the farm going into the supermarkets and going, after you've cooked it, that it's also before, and it's also in the farming. And on the farm in Sweihan, the organic farm, that's what the
name is called the
So
organic.
it's truly
farm.
organic.
Yes, it
it's
is.
not just a gimmick.
It's
or,
not just
truly.
a gimmick. It is, they reuse and they make sure that everything goes back into the soil to make sure that the nutrients are there. What is on the farm, it's a range from livestock,
Poultry, livestock, everything.
livestock.
Good point you said, asking about organic. So, organic in every country has a different meaning, has a different term, and you can even buy the labels. In fact, I remember when we first started this journey, I was speaking to a businessman, and he's like, I was explaining to him organic and free range and stuff like that. And he said to me, you know what, I have this huge farm overseas. I'm going to title it free range organic chicken, and I'm just going to sell it like that. And I was like, no, that's not what it means. He said, yeah, but that's perception. And I'll get into this a little bit later on. So, one, we say organic. What is organic? Organic means natural. I've studied leadership, and I give the example of an organic organization versus a mechanical organization. An organic organization is where everybody works together to get the end result done.
Mm-hmm.
Mechanical organization does their job and says, okay, I'm sorry, that's my job. And then somebody else asks them, hey, can you help me? I still haven't finished my job, and you have. They're like, no, sorry, I've done my part. That's it. It doesn't go forward unless somebody shifts the gear. When it's organic, everything makes it want to go forward. And so now farm, when it comes to, we've had our ups and downs. Sometimes we've lost 2,500 chickens, even more. And then you just have to start again and see when you do root cause analysis, what was the cause.
Mm-hmm.
And we've learned that if you spread them out throughout the farm, it's healthy for the farm, it's healthy for the chickens. We had free range chickens, but in one area. So if one chicken got sick, they all got sick.
Yes.
We spread them out.
Yeah.
And we have lots of stories.
The chickens that are hanging out with the cows are, I would say, the happiest.
Yes.
There's a very symbiotic relationship between the cows and the chickens.
Then
they have a good time together.
And then so when it comes to pesticides, you say, you can say I'm organic, but you have to buy this organic pesticide from so-and-so country. And okay, fine, that works in their country. We have herbal pesticides that we use. We have something called khila. Khila is, so you have myrrh and you have khila, and they come from tree sap that's in the region. And you mix that with water, it's super potent, and that gets rid of all bugs. But you can khila, and you can consume it if you had a bad stomach bug. Just a little bit of it, you just swallow it. Hopefully with a date, you mash it up in a date because that stuff's strong. And within a day, whatever stomach bug you had is gone. It's that strong. And so we use these natural remedies.
There's also neem.
Local.
Local. Neem, I wouldn't say is as local, but we get it from our neighbors, India. And so it works.
Fascinating. Khila, I've never heard about this.
Khila. I was looking for it. Our son was a little ill. I was looking for a little bit to give to him. Got the stomach bug.
Is it available in stores?
Yes. The smaller...
we call it Attar in Arabic.
Which we call a herbal store.
Yes, herbal store.
Yes.
Where you can get the frankincense. And
like in the souks, where they sell the souvenirs and so on.
Yes, you ask them for khila.
Downtown Abu Dhabi, downtown Dubai, you can find these.
You'll find them. Any herbal medicine store, you'll find the khila.
This is fascinating.
But also towards the livestock as well. It's
and we feed that to them too.
Very organic approach to medication as well. We don't necessarily want to give antibiotics or traditional Western medication, which goes into the animal and goes into us and affects us short term and long term down the line. But we like to give more apple cider vinegar to all the livestock and the chickens and everything alive that's on the farm. Apple cider vinegar, honey, black seed, everything it's ground up and it's given to the animals to eat. And
and they love it,
and they so love it, and it's
your chicken eat better than most people.
Oh yeah,
the honey and apple cider
and all these beneficial things that naturally take care of the body.
Garlic, onions, black seeds, red seeds, chia seeds. So honey, apple cider, all of that.
They have a superfood diet.
That is awesome. This khila, it sounds like heal in English.
It does sound like
it's a great thing for marketing. Are you guys going to market it or what?
Khila, the super healer.
Yeah.
There's it's called a red beetle that really affects date palms all over the world. When this red beetle hits the date palm and burrows into it, it eats the palm tree from inside, and then usually you'll see the top of the palm tree drop. The cure to that is actually getting the khila and mixing it with water and just feeding that date palm the khila infused water. And those bugs cannot stand it's got a very potent smell, but it's all fully natural. It's like a mix of 100
durian,
garlic and durian all mixed into one.
Wow.
And the bugs, they can't take it. They just leave. They leave the trees.
So how do we get this traditional knowledge from a mom and pop farm back to Cambridge and Oregon?
That's what we're trying to work on right now. That's what we're trying to.
That's all in process.
Yeah, it's in process. We're organically trying to spread the word.
Just go on with the story of the farm.
Oh.
So what else do you have in your farm?
Okay. But I want to put Viba on the spot. I always do. I kind of embarrass her. But so she mentioned celiac disease, and so that's allergy to wheat, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
So you are growing wheat organically on your farm. Is there anything we can do for Viba so she can enjoy it?
I personally believe that all these intolerances, lactose intolerance, gluten intolerance, all of these different types of intolerances are because our body is, a lot of what we eat nowadays are over-processed and over-refined, and our bodies do not recognize that properly as a food or a nutrient source. Obviously, I think there is a bit of a detox stage that it needs to be out of the body. And I think if you slowly reintroduce proper wheat, proper gluten, proper lactose in its, more natural forms, then I do believe that a lot of these intolerances can be reversed. That's my personal.
What do you think, Vipa?
It is true that, and I did a lot of research on this myself, it's true that the way the wheat is farmed now and grown is very different. Before, the stock of the wheat, it was only like the top 10% which had wheat growing on it, and now they've kind of
modified it.
They've modified it and
genetically modified it.
It's more potent. It has more of the protein of the wheat, and also the way we cook the food, the way we make our breads nowadays.
Well,
in the olden days,
like bleached and basically everything's taken out of it, and then they add nutrients back.
And then in the olden days, bread was made. It was fermented for a day, 2 days. All the yeast was eaten by the bacteria, and that was good for you. And now we have everything, fast food, and it's all fastened. So all of that has kind of led to where we are.
I've heard that bromine is added into processed wheat.
I've seen that a lot.
You've seen that.
So there is nothing that they can do as of now. All I can do is refrain from eating wheat.
But we got to do something.
Well, what we do is we can try that.
There are a lot of alternatives to wheat. I mean, I had no idea. All I ate my whole life was wheat. But there are 50 different flours out there, which are amazing. They are so healthy. There's buckwheat, there's amaranth, all of this quinoa, traditional flours.
There's a lot of traditional seeds and and that's also what they're doing as well. I had the pleasure of visiting recently the Biosaline Agricultural Center, and a lot of what they're trying to grow, which can grow in kind of briny, salty water, and even I believe some of the plants that they're growing, they literally just use seawater. You can grow so many different seeds, quinoa. You can also grow...
Which is what we're trying to do at our farm as well, because we have brine water as well.
Yes.
So we redirect it towards some of these plants.
Yeah.
First of all, when the plant takes this brine, it lets out clean water. People don't know, yes. They let out clean water, and they breathe into the atmosphere. So instead of the water just going back into the ground, then you have a salt crust, which gets blown away onto other things. You feed it to the plants that can take it, and you get a crop that is healthy. I'll tell you a little story about two professors.
Oh,
I work for
I used to be one.
I work for Abu Dhabi National Oil Company, and one of our professors there that used to be at the Technical Institute, I bumped into him in the at the supermarket, and I saw him buying camel milk. And I said to him, off-the-shelf camel milk, I said to him, Professor, I'm surprised to see you buying camel milk. He said, because I said, usually people don't like the taste of camel milk. I said, usually, if it's off the shelf, it's usually saltier than normal milk. He said, yes, but I used to be lactose intolerant, and you of all people should know this. You people of the land know that camels are very healthy, and it helps with the immune system. So he used to have lactose intolerance. He said since he started drinking camel milk, his lactose intolerance went away. So and that got me thinking. I at one point in 2012 I got quite sick, and I started developing skin allergies and breathing problems, and I couldn't understand what it was. And that was in 2012. So in 2014, when I was talking to the professor, I was told, you know what, I have this. I said, yeah. He said he had eczema and he had lactose intolerance and inflammation in general. So I started drinking camel milk on a daily, and amazingly, because the camel milk has less processing than normal milk, and it doesn't have lactose, my allergies started going away, and I was like, this is insane, this is amazing. And then I had a visit from Dr. Joshua Burka from the States, and the first thing he asked me was like, hey, Ahmed, I would love to have camel milk for myself and my fiancée. I said, how come? He said, because camel milk, I've been told that when you drink camel milk, it will make your stomach upset. I was like, yeah, that's why usually people don't like to drink camel milk. He said, yes, but when it makes your stomach upset, that means it's detoxing your body. And it'll flush your system. For a day, you'll get a runny stomach. Maybe, and if your system has a lot of toxins in it, it'll take longer. But he said, and so I took him to the farm and I showed him the animals, and we made this really nice wall tent on top of the dune, and for him and his fiancée, and they drank camel milk, and they're like, oh, this is amazing. So, and while he was here, we would go back and forth. He would either get milk from us or from someone else's farm or from the supermarket, which is a nice thing. We have two well-known brands here that you can get good camel milk from. One is Camelicious, which is Dubai-based, and they're more free-ranged camels. And then you have Al-Ain camel milk, which is more pellet-fed camels. So you can taste the difference. Free-range camels, that means they'll be eating from the trees in the desert. A few trees that in the desert and the bushes, so they get more immunity to the dust that's there. And then and then the camel-fed ones, the pellet-fed camels, they not camel-fed. You don't want camel-fed camels. That's wrong. Okay, that's just wrong. No, but the pellet-fed camels, you can tell the difference. They're saltier milk, but either way, they're both healthy.
I see.
So this is talking about the immune system, and I know for a fact that whenever I feel like, for example, recently I had to take the vaccines, and my body's just I had a very bad reaction to it. I started getting hives and stuff like that, and I was like, you know what? I've been lacking on my camel milk. Camel milk. So I started drinking camel milk, and I feel better.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I mean, when I could just scratch my skin and it would welt, and now it's fine. Totally fine.
It's awesome. This is really nice.
One thing that I also learned from my husband as well is about the honey.
Yes.
And how that helps you with allergies and your immune system. When you have bad hay fever, and usually hay fever is either worse in different countries or better. And I know a lot of people sometimes when they come here, they can have they can tend to get different allergies to either dust or pollen. And my husband mentioned that if you have the honey that's local from that region, it helps your body. And how I was discussing before is when your body either recognizes or doesn't recognize something, it'll either fight it or it'll welcome it in. I don't know. The honey actually helps your body take in the dust and the pollen, and then it'll be more recognized as something that's, not foreign and not bad for you, and actually reduces your allergies.
Which is why this is why we're saying about the when it comes to camel. And I'm also going to tie in here another thing with cows and goat and whatever animal it is. We say even this trickles down to produce. If you're eating from your area, your plants are drinking the water that you're drinking. The plants are having the dust that's in the air, the pollens that are mixed with their pollen. So you're getting the immunity. So the closer the produce is from, to where you're from, healthy it is. The honey is 100%. If the honey is from the area that you're in and you get ill, have honey from that area that you're in, because you're going to get immune to whatever it is. In our farms, we have Jersey cows, and we had a family, the very, very nice family from Jersey, the Martins. They visited us, and they
not New Jersey.
No, Jersey.
Okay.
Jersey, UK.
Jersey, the UK.
The first Jersey. And they said, you know what? We heard that you have Jersey cows. We'd love to see them. And like, come over to the farm and we'll show you the Jersey cows. And the cows we don't inject them with any special medicines for them to take care of the weather. We gradually got them used to it. And so you're talking about the food. Whenever they hear that bell for the food, they know what they're gonna get, what they're in for. They come over and they have food.
Running.
So these are Emirati Jersey cows. They're happier than California cows.
So what do you do when the weather gets really strong?
Give them shade.
But they are out.
They're out. Yeah, they're free range cows. They have shade. They have artificial shade, and then they have palm tree shade, which is very healthy for them. And then they eat the shrubs that are under the palm trees. They also have ACs as well. I won't say that they don't. They do have air conditioning. The air conditioning is mainly for the babies.
That's why they're happy.
Yeah.
Yes. The air conditioning is for the little babies. And we have, every now and then we'll have a camel on the farm mixed in with the Jersey cows. And the camel also gets cow milk.
Don't tell me they also have Wi-Fi and iPads and everything.
No. There was an English company that
camel get cow milk?
I'll tell you.
That's so. Yeah.
So we'll have the baby camel calf when it's old enough to get weaned from its mother. We bring them to the farm, and this is usually the camel is for meat. So if it's a camel that will eventually be slaughtered for meat, we bring it to the Jersey cows and let them play with it. They live with the Jersey cows and drink from the Jersey cow milk. And the reason being is the cow milk allows it to become. It has more fat than a camel milk. So this is what people don't know. Camel milk not only does it not have lactose, but also it's less in fat and high in water. And something that I've tested on myself is when I was ill, I stopped eating solids and I just went on a camel milk diet. So 90% was not camel milk, maybe even higher, and every now and then I would have salads. And my body just consumed the fat that was in it. And I lost weight, I was healthy, I felt so much more energetic. And every day I would be running. So I wasn't just doing that kind of diet. I went to work from 6:30 to almost 6 p.m. So 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. sometimes. And I jogged every day and I was totally healthy. So going back to the difference between camel milk and other milks. So the cow milk, we feed it to the camels for them to beef up, and it gets, as I say, beef up, but it's a camel. And the camel doesn't complain, of course, he loves it.
And so, that was a good pun. Beef up your camels.
Yeah, beef up your camels.
Yeah, without hormones
without hormones. Yeah. Just natural food, natural shelter. In the wintertime, we fence up. So we cover the fences with a fabric. That way it'll just hold the wind. But that's it. So they have their shades. They have the natural shade. They have the artificial shade. They have as I said, the air conditioning. When I say air conditioning, I'm not saying air conditioning like a house, because that would actually make the animal sick, just like it makes people sick. Mm-hmm. And if you noticed when you walked into our residence, it's set at 23. Mm-hmm. All year round, we try to keep it at 23 because that's healthy. So if you step out from here, it's 23, and you go outside right now, it's probably 35, 40. Maybe in the peak, it's 50. There's a jump, but it's not like going from 18 degrees and you go out and your body's shocked. So for the animals, we have a water-cooled air conditioning for them that just blows cool air. It's not 18 degrees, it's just cooler.
And it helps circulate the air, keeps it clean, keeps it fresh.
And then for so some of the animals we have there, we have the chickens spread out through the farm, we have the turkeys. All of these animals are essential. You can't have a farm without these animals because they eat the bugs, they kill the snakes, the chickens.
What kind of snakes?
Grass snakes. Grass snakes. Oh, we don't have much.
Yeah, never coming to this farm. It's snakes.
So you have grass, sand snakes, I'll say. Well, grass, not that much grass here. You have constricting snakes, so harmless snakes to us. Some of them are poisonous. There are some poisonous snakes, but their poison is not lethal. But either way, the chickens take care of them.
For real?
The chickens will stomp on them until the snake is dead. And every now and then we'll find a dead snake, and the farm or the workers will find it.
So
and
snakes keep out.
Yes, exactly. So the chickens and the birds and the turkeys, they take care of them.
And they also take care of the soil.
And they take care of the soil.
Yeah, but are they served in your restaurant? These
the snakes, no.
No, okay. The ones they kill,
yes,
the roadkill.
Yes, of the birds that we've served at restaurants and different collaborations, we've had pigeons, chicken. We've had some of the quails when they were there. As I said, we got rid of, I think, 4,500. No, when I say get rid of, it sounds a little bit more, but no, we just sold them, that's all.
Oh.
So we sold majority of them, and we kept a few of the eggs in our incubators.
There is a restaurant also in Dubai that sources quail eggs from the farm.
Wow.
So like almost 400 every other day, 400 eggs.
Quail eggs.
Nice.
So you said, like, from your farm, you are currently not working with big retails.
No.
So how can people buy produce from your farm?
Through Instagram, WhatsApp.
Yeah.
There's a
Simplified.
link on. There's a link on Instagram.
Yeah, if you just go to the
nowadays, it's the easiest way to connect.
But do you
with
also
everybody.
then kind of look at going to having, especially when the weather is good currently, it's still all right, go to farm markets like ripe, or are you available?
We do have something in the works where we will sell the produce in Dubai from a specific location in a market style. That is in the works. So that's something to look out for on our Instagram page.
Yes.
And also the Organic Farms Instagram page.
So that's a very important thing is to do that, you'd have to have more manpower, and so we are all working. And when we're not working, we're at the farm or we're with the baby. So it's quite challenging, but it's not impossible. And somebody actually, as my wife said, one of the businesses in Dubai said, you know what, I actually want to make a space for you to showcase your produce, because they saw our produce and they were like, wow. We didn't know that this could be even grown in the UAE.
Yeah.
And my cousin Muhammad AlRemeithi, he's the one who's behind a lot of the trial and error in the farm. And when we were doing an interview we had someone interviewing him, one of our marketing team, not our marketing team, a marketing team was interviewing him, and they asked him a very simple question. They said, "Why do you grow these things? I've never, some of the produce we grow there are, I would say, even exotic, something you'd find at a Michelin star chef restaurant, like the carrots, the purple carrots and the blue carrots and the yellow carrots and the white carrots and different kinds of kales." And he said, because I can.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Because I can.
Yeah, because I can.
And that's a great answer. That means if I can, you can as well.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
a great answer, yeah.
Exactly.
I really like...
We're going to continue trying to experiment with what is grown here. And
I like that you guys are experimenting. You do fail, but you move on and up. And
we've grown coffee in the desert.
Oh, wow. I got to hear about that.
But I have to say, it was very successful until the caretaker of them got stuck in overseas due to COVID, and the person that was taking charge of watering these plants did not know how to do it, and they burnt them all. Because if you water them at the wrong time in the sun, the plants actually burn. Because if you have water on a plant and midday, that sun just burns the trees. So we're going to do it again. And
you're going to do it again?
Yes.
All right.
Because the way we got we were actually, we were given these little Arabica coffee seedlings, and very hard to come by. So they were doing well. And the whole point was to show that it can be done. It can be done with normal water, just normal farm water that we have on our farm. In shade, it was doing well. The thing is, when it's a sapling, it doesn't have strong enough roots to to find water for itself, and that's why it didn't work. But that doesn't mean we're not going to work. It's not going to work again. So we're planning on the next phase, and we're going to plan on having a backup plan, so where it always gets water at the right time to the roots instead of being watered from above.
Can you tell me about the soil? And also mention earthworms.
Ah, yes, of course.
Yeah,
like that hint.
Just to extend that question, because that's exactly what I wanted to understand. How do you, obviously it's extreme weather, it's a desert weather. How do you keep the soil health? Do you rotate crops? Or what do you do to keep?
You want to go? All right, so to go back to what we do when it comes to, we have an incubator area in the farm, not only for birds, but even for plants. So we'll bring plants that my wife and I, what we do when we travel the world, when we see a plant that is beneficial, not only looks nice, but it is actually beneficial or medicinal, we'll take the seeds and then we'll plant
they're
up.
cutting your seeds.
Yeah.
We've gone through many in the airport.
Yes.
Kind of wondering.
Do they ask questions?
Of course they ask questions.
Is this something you smoke?
No, we tell them no. It's just it's a plant that we would like to grow. And they're like,
well, I mean, there are quite a few stories as well of Humaid Ali, my husband's cousin, traveling with.
Yeah, but we've also brought in some very exotic. When I say exotic chickens, I mean. Yes, we have chickens that have pink eggs and chickens that have green eggs and chickens that have peach-colored eggs and just different colors of eggs.
No, is that natural?
It's natural.
All natural.
Really?
Yes. I mean, we have a farm in Portugal as well, and one of our chickens in Portugal, the egg color is pink. And then the word got out to the rest of the people in the village, and they're like, "That is such a rare chicken.
Yeah,
we want that chicken." And it was so funny. So yes, these are naturally occurring.
Can we get those photos for our website? I mean, you guys.
These are organic, multicolored chicken eggs.
They look
I've
pastel.
never seen that. Brown and blue in all shades of pastel.
Yeah. Nice.
Well,
Very nice.
Nature is full of colors. And
Yes.
And when you talk about carrots, when you talk about all these different fruits and vegetables, you have these occurring naturally and usually more ancient variations, which nowadays in fancy
Selective,
restaurant terms, they're heirloom tomatoes, heirloom carrots. It's a fancy way for restaurants to charge more usually.
Right.
But if you think about
they'll give you purple carrots and they'll charge you more.
It is heirloom.
But it is.
It is heirloom because it's one of the kind. It's created.
It's because we've taken care of it from generation to generation. Yes, like our pigeons.
Purple cauliflower on the farm.
Yes.
There's yellow cauliflower.
And kales, different colors.
There's different color kales. The tomatoes, black tomatoes.
Do you have kales growing outside of your
kales? I'll tell you a little bit about those.
Yeah,
those are actually collard greens.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are collard greens. But going back to your question about the soil. So other than the incubator, where we test soil, we test water on plants. We dig huge pits. So you're talking about 6 meters deep. I can't remember how wide it was. Huge. Big pits. Big, wide, long. And then we fill it full of organic produce. Because if you look at the UAE, United Arab Emirates, and you look at Arabia in general from a helicopter's view, you see that there was clear signs of rivers going through this area, which means that there was plants and trees and water. What happened is, obviously, I would say, definitely deforestation back then, which has caused that. I remember reading in one of the museums that the area, what caused it was during the one of the earlier ages, where people were cutting down the trees to use the trees as ships and houses and burning, and so the more trees you had, the less trees you had, the more you were exposing the earth to dryness.
Right.
Soil degradation.
Soil degradation.
I mean, I did hear Saudi Arabia, I do not know where exactly I read, but Saudi Arabia was green forest once upon a time.
Yes.
Here as well.
Here we could show you some parts where the forests still remain. Some of the old trees of the United Arab Emirates. There's a whole belt of trees that goes from between Abu Dhabi and Dubai to Sharjah. Those trees are still there.
And also you can find fossilized trees all over the
deserts. You can
Gulf
find
countries.
them. And so going back to that is, once it's exposed for too long, you lose the nutrients in the soil. So to reintroduce the nutrients, we make those huge pits and we fill it with organic wastes, all the waste from the farm. Anything that's organic is put in there, only organic, of course, no plastics, and we sift through it to make sure there's no plastics. And sometimes somebody might throw it in not thinking, they might think, oh, this bag is okay, it'll break down. No, it won't break down. And even if it does, we don't want that in there.
Right.
So we reintroduce organic waste, foods and stuff, and then we cover it. And then on top of that, we plant a field of, it could be alfalfa, it could be any other kind of crop.
Okay, cover crops.
Yes. That organic waste that's under the ground starts to break down, and then you start to have earthworms.
Yes.
And if you have no earthworms, your soil is going to be very difficult. It's not going to have all the nutrients. It won't have the gaps that it needs inside to breathe.
Can you kind of introduce it from outside?
Yes, we do. One of my cousins, Jessica and Humaid AlRemeithi, also. He's actually the official face of the farm, we say. And he's grown his own earthworms. So he's through trial and error.
Black gold.
He calls them black gold. So he actually sells his earthworms online as well.
Oh, he does.
Farms and to families.
From where?
From his website. So,
where is he based?
He's actually based in Khalifa City.
Oh my goodness!
Yes. So he has his earthworm farm, and yes, you can introduce earthworms into the soil.
I would love to buy some earthworms.
Yes.
I've been trying to. I have experimented many times, because in my house I want my back garden to be completely green, vegetable patch. But every time something grows, it doesn't taste as it should taste. So I've been thinking about, so maybe I should get in touch.
We'll hook you up with some worms. Earthworms,
Yes.
that is, of course. And so that's one of the ways we keep the ground healthy. Another way is you have all of this healthy and free high nutrient fertilizer from our animals. From the cows, we have the manure. And the goats, we have goats on the farm, different kinds of goats. Sheep and goats and lambs. Wow. And all of their nutrients, we give it back to the ground. So that's what I was saying in the beginning. An organic farm sounds nice. But when it's an organic farm that is being sustained from itself, that is really an organic farm. Because everything is natural, there's no chemicals.
And as we were talking about as well, zero waste and kind of making it go full circle and full cycle. A lot of different countries and different systems, they usually import feed to give to livestock. Yes. And in the UAE, there's a huge history of growing alfalfa to give to the livestock, which is, locally grown. And that's something as a resource that's easily grown here as well. And that's fed to, you have the alfalfa that's grown, which, has the beautiful nutrients in it. It gets fed to the livestock. They usually only eat it gets fed to the chickens that eat the leaves, and then the stalks get fed to the livestock. Every little bit
has a process.
So it's a circular economy and zero waste.
Yes.
And another thing is, some farms, we were actually horrified during the COVID era. We watched programs of where they were just dumping their potatoes because they said nobody buys them. They just dump them. And what we do...
Not locally,
internationally.
Right.
What we do is first of all, we plant what we need and what we expect. And whatever's extra, which is, there'll always be extra, we feed it to our animals. Yes. So they don't complain. Yes. They get the best. Either way, and then we also have we mash up a lot of the food for the chickens. So we'll take the salads, even when we have a feast or a gathering.
Yeah,
we take the food and the vegetables and stuff, the greens, mash it up, give it to the animals. The chickens, they love it. They love it. Throw in a few onions and garlic, and they're just happy.
During the Expo, you had Alif restaurant.
Yes.
So what's the plan now? Do you have a restaurant? Are you working with some other restaurant, or are you...
At the moment, for the near future, what we're doing is collaborating with different restaurants and doing more pop-ups and collaborations. Also, we have the services that we provide, which have everything to do with agriculture, education, and also the F&B. So at the moment, we're focusing on those services. We do have a few projects long-term in the works, potentially for restaurants, but those are a bit more long-term. And it's also just because what we want to achieve when we open a restaurant, we don't want a typical cookie cutter, just what every other restaurant that you can find here in the UAE. We want something that's going to be different. We want something that's going to be sustainable, that's going to be full cycle, full circle. We want something that's going to be locally sourced as much as possible. So all of these aspects together obviously do take a bit more research and development. They take a bit more time to put together. So I
think in our latest collaboration, we've been able to prove that you can have a locally sourced menu that's even, you could say, fine dining.
Yes, we had
a very good collaboration.
We had a collaboration with 21 Grams in Dubai, a very highly acclaimed, awarded restaurant, and we did a locally sourced iftar, and it was everything from the farm, and it was absolutely delicious. And it's amazing what you can do with the produce that is available here.
And that was a seven course menu.
8 course, I think.
It was 8?
I think 8.
So everything from the appetizers all the way to the desserts were from
and it
our
was
farm.
Zero waste as well.
Nice.
We used the bones from the meat that was served and made a stock and sauces, and the cut-offs from the vegetables that weren't used also went into the sauces and everything.
It was a success, I would say. So and that was the point we wanted to. We wanted to put across that it can be done.
What advice do you have to others? Do you advise that others start what you're doing?
Well, if anybody would like advice, they can come to us, and then we can definitely give it to them as a service.
You've experimented a lot. You've failed. You've succeeded, and you've worked hard.
That's what we think is we believe that those who don't try, you need to try, and you need to see failure sometimes as a positive.
Exactly.
Because failure means that you're trying and you're learning. Inshallah, you're learning. Because if you're not learning, then you're doing something wrong. But you need to learn from these failures, and we are doing a lot of trial and error on the farm.
A simple word of advice. I'll link it to a story of when I was a child, and this was a common practice in almost all families, even in other countries, or usually people who are self-made. When I was a child, I remember my uncle Abdurrahman AlRemeithi. He also was a known person here. And he would catch me when I would be running around playing. He'll just say, "Hey, calm down." He said, "What did you do?" I said, and I was like, "What do you mean? What did I do?" I did many things. He said, "No, pick one thing." I said, "Well, I was playing with the bicycle." He said, "Okay, how did it go?" I said, "It was okay, but I fell a few times." He said, "How can you do it better?" I said, "Well, I practice and make sure I don't do it. I don't fall, and if I fall, I get up and go again." He's like, "Okay." I was like, "Okay, phew. I got away from that one." And then the next day he'll remember, he'll call me. "So how did it go? Did you do it? Were you better today than you were yesterday?" And that's how it was a common practice among our elders. They would always do that. So what did you learn today? How can you do it better tomorrow? So to answer your question, there's nothing that hasn't already been done. So if you want to do something, see what's already been done, see if it's practical, start, or even improve it. It's not like you're creating something out of thin air. It's already there. The farming is already there. Your patch of property is already there. You have a balcony, you have a window that you could put little plants and shrubs on it. You can start. It's just taking the effort and starting in a smart way, as I say, work smart and not hard. And that's a very true saying. I mean, as you said, quoting me, is that trial and error.
Quoting myself
is out of trial and error. Yes, there was a lot of money and resources spent, but it's not wasted. It was invested.
Right.
But for somebody else to do the same, I'd say, please come over to the farm. See what you have in mind, see how it's done. I mean, in our farm, we've gone from making our own hybrid crops and in a natural way of it, to even having hybrid livestock that could withstand the crossbreeding, that could withstand the temperatures. And I'll give you an example. Don't do that with Jersey cows and local Arabian cows. It doesn't work. I mean, it works, but it's not what you'd expect, because the Arabian cow looks almost like a Jersey cow, but it's smaller in size and it can withstand the heat. But it's not practical from it just doesn't make sense. It just doesn't work. So have some Jersey cows, get them used to the weather, and you'll be just fine. Or come to the farm.
But I think one thing that my husband just touched on as well is that keeping information to yourself and not sharing it is probably one of the greediest things that you can do. And I think knowledge and all these trial and errors and all this research that people who care about a topic, you need to share it, and you need to make sure that everybody starts these initiatives and everybody starts practicing these type of practices, because it's not smart as a person with morals to start doing these practices and just keeping it for yourself. So it is very important to make sure that everybody has the information available and can start doing these practices for themselves as well.
Are there any communities over here for farmers that people can join, that you are a part of, where people share, what knowledge they've gained from their trials that would help?
We have started that. So, for example, from the success of what we've been doing, a lot of family members, and that's how it usually starts. It starts either with your neighbors and then your family. That's how, word of mouth. And they've come to us and say, hey, I would like to see what you've done, and I would like you to do the same, replicate it in our farm. I'm like, okay, fine. So different areas in the UAE have those family members and friends have come and they said, okay, we would like to do that. Some of them have gone and done it and done even better than what we've done, because they took what we've done and improved it, which is the whole point.
Yeah.
But in our line of farms, as Jessica was saying, we wish that more people would carry on. If somebody doesn't want to open their eyes, they will never see.
But that brings to my next question. So in terms of education, there's so much which is intangible, because it is in your blood, so to speak, to put it simply, that it just comes from generation handed over by your forefathers. Now in today's UAE, the local children, how do you bring that knowledge to them? Are you looking to start some sort of educational programs with schools and colleges?
Yes.
Because I'm sure there are people who
It's a very big yes.
Yes, we have a big plot in the farm that we were discussing on how to build it in an eco-friendly way, that it's a living, while they're learning, everything around them is actually living. So the columns that are there, I don't want to go into all the details. It's simply done, but it's practical. And it's while they're learning, they can see, they can pick something, they can eat it, they can ask.
So what age is that? Education is definitely a big part of what we want to do. We have actually already done a collaboration with New York University, actually.
Oh,
yes. Yeah,
Excellent.
They had a Green Week.
Yes.
And for the start of their Green Week, we collaborated with a company called The Knot that does kind of local heritage tours. And we had a group of students come to the farm, and we talked to them about, farming in the desert. And it was actually quite interesting, because a lot of the students who signed up for this, said that they had seen farming in other countries, and they were curious about seeing it here, how it's done here. And they were blown away by what can be done here and the quality as well. But we do believe that educating, I would say it starts from as early as possible.
Yes.
So it's just cool that your husband is talking about, Jessica. What age is that?
Would you like to join it?
I would say
not too old for it.
I love Philip to join. Not this Philip. My son's name is also Philip. He is 5 years old. So yeah, because it's so great to be in a school where you are in touch with nature.
Yes.
What else can you ask?
Myself as a child, I've been in the farm since before I could even walk. If it was on the farms here in the UAE or even on our farm in Portugal, we've always been in the farms, learning, touching and in touch with nature, and pricked by nature sometimes. Prickly weeds here and there. On a educational level, I think the best age would be to go with 4, maybe even 3. But it doesn't mean people can't bring smaller children. That's fine. We've had younger children on the farm. But the thing then you have to look into liability and what will the child learn. So you want the child to be able to learn, to be able to appreciate what they're learning.
So starting at 3 until 99?
I would love to have them at 3, because that's an age where they're they want to touch and eat everything. And if everything around them is edible and healthy, that's fine. But I would say maybe 3, 5. We'll see.
So this is a project that's upcoming, or is it already?
This is upcoming. No. The plot is already set out, but we haven't started the groundwork yet.
So is sustainable farming profitable? I know it takes a lot of effort and a different kind of mindset, but is it also profitable?
It can be profitable. It's how you manage it. So there's an old saying: anything and everything that's mismanaged fails, whether it was a relationship, a business, or a farm. So if it's mismanaged, it will fail because you'll have the money just pouring out of every seam. There's a very good example in the Holy Quran mentioned about the best of person to hire. The best of person to hire is the person that is strong and honest. Because you can have somebody that's strong in what they do, but if they're not honest, it's like having a hole in your pocket. The money comes in, but it goes out. You don't know where it's going. And if you have somebody that's honest but not strong at what they do, they're good, but they're not doing anything. There's no profit coming in. So to answer your question, yes, it can be sustainable and it can be profitable. Do your research. Know what's locally grown. There are so many weeds that grow naturally in the desert that are equivalent to, for example, rocket. Rocket can grow here easily and it's a very healthy crop. But there is also an equivalent that grows, and just pour water on the sand, it will grow here in the desert. And it looks like rocket, it looks like wild rocket. And it is rocket. So yes, it can be profitable. If you know what you're growing, what is the end result you want to do? What kind of farm? What do you want to farm in general? If it's livestock, you need to have a mix of these things and start in a basic way and learn from others. If you go into the sea without knowing how to swim, you might swim and you also might drown. So to answer your question, yes, it is profitable. See what others are doing and build off of it. Some important crops that I will say, and I think anybody who has a plot of land, I encourage them to plant, are lentils. They produce a lot of crop.
And I heard that it's very healthy for the soil.
Yes. So yeah, you're asking about plants that how to re-energize the soil. Yes, we do plant some crops and then cover them again. That way, it leaves that nutrient back into the soil.
So that's also like how they used to do in old days. There is harvest time. Once it's harvested and then it's few months of summer, they would put lentils and stuff like that.
Yes.
It probably would not give the same yield as their regular crop would. But what happens at the end of it is they just level it off, put soil, and then the soil is ready for the next crop.
So in Portugal, I'll give you a good example of that. In Portugal, they grow eucalyptus for tissues. So, tissues and paper. The problem with that is eucalyptus, it consumes the soil. So within 10 years, the soil is lifeless, you could say. To give life back to soil is you plant termus. We call it termus. It's a kind of bean. I can't remember its name in English. And when you plant this and you till it, you put it back into the ground and you cover it, it actually puts nutrients back into the ground. So you can plant again eucalyptus. Till it eats up again. So every plant, if it was just the eucalyptus tree growing for 10 and 50 years and nobody cut it down, it would be fine because it's taking nutrients and giving as well. But when it's just grown to be cut, then it becomes a problem.
It's a great story. A lot of good luck and success to both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you, Philip.
Yeah, I loved hearing your stories. I mean, I come also from a huge family, and I love listening to all these stories from our forefathers, grandfathers. So, yeah, thank you so much for honoring us because we don't know that much about UAE's history. So, yeah, that was beautiful.
You're most welcome. You're most welcome, and it was a pleasure and honor having you here as well as our guests, and also at the farm.
We look forward to it.
Yes, you definitely are inviting us.
Yes, I am. Of course, the invitation is open. It's because we're proud of it. That's why we're very proud of what's been done. And we like people to see what's been done, and
you should be,
and to taste what we can do with our food.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode.
You'll come back now. You hear?
Yeah.
All right.
Bye now.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.